Captain's Log Supplemental.
Hey Jeremy, you know those race cars you're busy building?
Yeah, I do. I
You,
got one
you,
that I'm looking at every day.
you know what I don't see you working on?
You don't see me working on the amazing Sentinel system yet.
That's true. It would take all of 10 minutes for you to have one.
And it's very quick and easy to install.
It is. It is. And we could watch you when we are not at the race with you and see how you're doing. And then we can call you up when you get out of the car and tell you everything you did wrong.
And I love that because so many years I've been driving and not been able to see what I'm doing.
I know.
And now we can.
I know. You know what I'd like to do with the video? My most favorite thing is I take the video and I load it on YouTube and then I send it to my coach and say, look at 26 minutes and 17 seconds. Look at this one lap and tell me what I can do better. And every single time, you know what they say?
Everything.
Exactly. Precisely. So with the Sentinel system, you get instantaneous feedback plus useful feedback that unfortunately is accurate for my driving.
I think it's accurate for all of our driving.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's probably true. Yep. But you need to get one in your car, sir.
Yes, I do. And with the discount code that you're going to tell everybody, they can save 10% on this awesome system.
Yep. Trouble free. I haven't had an issue getting video every time we've gone out with the Sentinel. It's always worked. Can't say the same for some of the other systems we've tried. So I don't know. It's on the podcast notes down there. Don't do it while you're driving, though. We like to have our listeners live. It's good.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Audra.
Guess what? We have a guest.
Yeah. Pretty important one, too.
I know.
I don't know about any of that.
Some say he is the ultimate judge. Some say he can't decide whether he wants to be at a Lemons Rally or a Lemons Race. Others just call him the Everything Bagel. Welcome back to the podcast, Eric Rood.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
And he does have another title. It is the fifth host of the Everyone Racers podcast. So, we don't want to infringe upon any patent rights. So,
I happen to be the fifth host of this one, apparently, this time around. So.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Eric was delighted that he turned on the Zoom and saw that it wasn't just me. He's like, I don't have to talk to Bill for an hour. This will be great.
I can talk to anybody about lemons for hours.
Exactly.
That is the thing. That's the one thing I know I'm good at. So.
Yeah, you've got a bit of experience. I think you've been to every racing site by now, I think.
That is not true. And I'm getting to the last one that has been a staple of scheduled this year, which is High Plains. I have not been to Colorado.
Wow.
And I'm super pumped to be going there this year.
Was it because Phil took all of them?
Yeah, it was. Phil was always there, so it was always covered. And then Aaron Cole was always there.
Oh, yeah.
So
Aaron.
it was always covered after
he moved,
Phil had stopped. He did. He lives up by you guys now.
I know.
I think
little
he's on the
south.
Jersey side. Yeah.
He's been smart. He's moved out here and has not come to visit.
Wait, somebody moved to Jersey?
Yeah.
Not away from Jersey?
Yeah.
From Denver. Yeah.
From Denver.
God.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's got a pretty good job. I don't know if you guys know Aaron very well, but he's the boy, I don't want to screw that up. He is a bigwig in the marketing department at Subaru who is based in Camden, New Jersey, I think. So he moved for a pretty good job.
I think he
Yeah.
lives on the Pennsylvania side.
He might, yeah.
Either way. One way
Who
he gets
knows?
cheesesteaks, one way he
Anyway.
gets pork roll. But either way,
Somewhere over there.
Yeah,
he'll
well,
be fine.
the upside is that I'll be working at the 24-hour race in Colorado this fall. So
Nice. So that'll cross off the last of the big boys.
that's right.
Get that all fancy. So, Eric, we were very creative in how we come up with our podcast discussions. We contacted you about something totally non-related to the podcast. You said, "Hey, I'm way overdue," and I said, "Well, come on in, like next week." And
Yep.
looking at the calendar, I came up with this great thing. It's like February, so I was like, "Hey, we could like look back at 2024 and maybe look ahead to 2025, and then babble on about whoever knows what we get talking about." So, how was 2024 in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, I don't know if this is well known or well publicized. Let me move my mic just a little bit here. But this was by entries the biggest lemon season ever. We had
Really?
over 2,200 entries for the whole season.
Really?
So
Is that
that's
unique
like
entries or total?
it's total, yeah. So it's not like, we didn't have 2,200 different
Okay.
cars show up, some if you shut up with your car 4 times, that counted as 4.
Okay.
But 2,200 entries across the whole season, which is like 10% more than we ever have. So I mean, people are super into lemons right now, which is amazing. Because we kind of were staying the course for a while, and for it to grow like that very suddenly, kind of unexpected and awesome. So lots of new people, lots of new things in lemons, and that's really exciting to see.
You might have had 23% if you didn't sell out one or two of your races too. So
There was that whole chestnut with
I was just
New
gonna say
Hampshire.
it created a unique a unique thing for you to try to figure out what's going to happen in the future, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and we'll talk about this when we talk about this year, but we had known that New Hampshire was, and for those who are new, New Hampshire sold out, and we ended up with 10 to 12 cars that didn't end up making it because the race was full. But we'd known for a couple of years that one was kind of on the edge of full, and we think, addressed that for 2025. So, but going back to last year, man, so many awesome new cars and new teams and new people. I cannot stress enough that the new people who are showing up in Lemons really seem to get it in a way that is really encouraging. Which is to say, lots of really, really good crap showing up to the Lemons.
and beyond the cars, I think the Halloween meets gasoline has been. It looks like it's elevated to another level.
Yeah, yeah. It was a little slow to get going for probably a year or so, getting people to kind of lean into the themes. And yeah, it seems to have elevated kind of throughout the last year and a half. There's been some really good teams pushing the themes really hard. The Loose Nuts guys out of Tennessee are like tip top at theming. They've been really great.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there was a theme at New Jersey a year and a half ago that I think really kind of started picking up the pace for the East Coast.
Oh wow! Just bragging.
Now that I
Dodgeball
think
theme, remember
back,
that?
Just bragging.
now that I think back on it, that was right around the time where it started ramping up. So yeah, I think you guys were at the front end of that trend. I'll say that, and that was one of the most fun races I've worked in a really long time. Thanks in no small part to the dodgeball game that broke out at the potluck.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
I think my favorite part was people who didn't know Vicki thought that those were her eyebrows, and that was a real mole, even though it
that was
moved
awesome.
around her face.
Even though the mole moved around my face
all weekend. I'm like, no,
I
that's
mean,
not what she looks like.
Those are the themes that are those little nuance pieces are the things that I love most when people theme really hard. I don't know if you guys have met Shelley, Judge Shelley,
Yes,
out of
Mhm.
South
we had her on
Carolina.
actually.
Excellent. She is incredible. And when she does her South Carolina theme, like people do not understand that is her being a character. She sells it so well. They're like,
Hmm.
I didn't, okay,
That's awesome.
she's totally sold into it. And people are like, I don't know what to do with that a lot. Because it's a bit of a Tammy the trailer park queen kind of thing.
That's
It's
awesome. I can't wait to meet her.
it's more subtle than that, but it's really good. So
Yeah, her
yeah.
judging starts off with "Bless your heart."
Oh man, I had it. Yeah, we had a conversation at Barber with a couple of the judges about Shelley as a judge and how she has a way of turning people like
Mhm.
this, like at the snap, because she does this. She just kind of nods and smiles, and people talk their way into a deep, deep pit. And then she just takes the dirt and drops it over them when they're buried in a way that I've seen nobody else who's judged do. It's really impressive. So if you can witness that secondhand from a safe distance, it is one of the most entertaining things you'll see in Lemons.
So her schedule precluded this from happening, but she had an open invite to the ladies' team at Thompson that we were going to enter.
Mm.
So if
Mhm.
you could politely twist her arm just a little bit, the invite's still there because we're still doing the ladies' event.
Yeah, I will let her know and encourage her towards that. And people who don't know, and you guys obviously had her on, so you talked about this. Like she really knows what she's doing. She ran an SCCA region for years,
Hmm.
so um, she knows how to build a car and drive a car and run a team and run things bigger than a team. So really an amazing addition to the judging roster, I think, and kind of a really awesome person to have in the Lemons community in general. So
I mean, we
um
needed a judge with a drill powered siren.
yeah, that's incredible as well. No notes on that.
Mm-mm.
So
No notes.
yeah, great stuff this past year. I pulled up a list from the wrap up we did, the season wrap up. The thing that I realized at the when the video came out that we totally spaced on, I should mention right off the top, is I think his name's Quincy out of Colorado, built a twin engine Ford Focus. I don't know if did you guys see any of this
Yes,
build?
we saw it live and in
It
person.
is amazing. Just he built a twin engine Ford Focus, and he ran the 24-hour race, which was in June this year. Like 2 weeks after that race was over, he's like, I should probably put an engine in the back of this thing, and for the next race, which is what's 2 months away. And in 2 months, he converted this car into a twin engine Focus, which is mind boggling. And I can't believe I spaced on putting that in the wrap up. So I wanted to put that in here to make sure people understood how crazy that build is. And it worked. Like the twin engine car worked, which is nuts. So that was one of the coolest builds of the year. Also, Mike Anderson is this really cool guy out of Indiana who took an Opel GT. He'd been racing an Opel GT for years. He put the Narrow V Camaro V6 in it, like a 3.4, I think it was, and decided he wanted to go bigger. So he built another one that was mid-engine with an Audi 4.2 liter V8 and a six-speed in it. And he put a throttle stop on it so that
I
it was
hope so.
only at half throttle.
That's a good plan.
And it's crazy. The thing's absolutely nuts. And I was like, there's no way this thing's gonna work at all. So I put it in Class C and it didn't work. And then he brought it to Road America and it ran like a truck. It ran all weekend and crushed Class C. One of the coolest builds of the last few years. And he did that because years ago, Judge Phil said, Audi 4.2 liter, you put that in anything. It's a terrible motor. Put you in Class C. And this guy was like, all right, I'll do that. And he spent like 3 years building this thing. So another really cool build from the last year.
That needs to go in El Jefe then to get El Jefe back in Class C.
Oh, something weird.
Well, Jeremy likes
I
these
mean,
Audi Volkswagen things.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you've seen the timing chain pictures of like changing the timing chain on that. There's
Oh,
like
I've
four
changed one.
miles. Yeah, there's like 4 miles of timing change. Yeah, it looks like a nightmare. And every piece of maintenance on that engine is like that. So you have to hate yourself to want to work on that engine to start with. So you know, yeah, put it in the S10. Let's see what happens. I mean,
Couldn't be any worse.
yeah.
So what were some of the biggest challenges of 2024?
Big challenges. Well, obviously, capacity, having a full race at New Hampshire. And actually, MSR Houston was like right on the edge of, which was the exact next race, which was funny because we hadn't sold out a race in like 6 years, I think, 7 years.
I thought New
And then
Jersey was sold out prior to New Hampshire.
that was
was on
also like right on the edge.
Oh, it was on the edge. Okay.
Close.
Yeah.
I think
Plus or
Jersey's
minus a
140.
couple. Our numbers we don't publish them for a reason because there's some fungibility in it, and there's always a little bit of
Margin.
how to put this. Our registration system is not.
I can make
Well,
suggestions. I can make suggestions if you'd like some.
Well, you
We've
also have to
added
take
some-
into account some of the people that do sign up that their car is never going to run or start the race.
There's that, but basically, our registration system at the time was not set up to be automated to like be a hard cutoff at this number. So, you'd have to be paying attention and be like, oh crap, 3 more people got in, and then it's like, well, shit, I guess it's 143 instead of 140 or whatever. So there's some give and take with those numbers. We are working really hard at having a hard cutoff number for things.
Look,
Still don't
if
have
you
final
want,
numbers for
if,
stuff.
if you
But
could
anyway,
if you could put some logic in the back, it does the hard cutoff at the number, but it's got a logic statement that says if Tom Lamino's in the race, then you can add one because he'll be done in like 4 or 5 laps. So
Yeah, he'll turn 1 or 2
Yeah.
laps, 4 laps, 5 laps
Mhm.
on practice day, not the race day, practice day.
yeah, but Jonah's always got the backup car. So
I know.
I mean,
Which breaks to half a lap.
right.
and then they
right.
go get the third car.
Well, I mean, ironically, the car that broke first at New Hampshire was Burt, and I don't think anybody expected Burt 1 to break. And
Right.
yeah, it ran 4 laps and blew up. So other challenges. I mean, honestly, everything. It's weird once you've been doing this for 15 years as a company, which is how old our registration system is. We kind of figure out how to make it work. Excuse me. But we had a couple of system problems that were unusual. Nothing that like was super customer facing, but some stuff to work through. So that was kind of part one, and part two is growth is amazing and unexpected, at least at the level that it was. But it also means that staffing has been not a problem, but it's something we've been working hard to expand. So the people you see on pit lane, there's probably a lot of new faces as we've kind of found a crew who are, I guess, more flexible with their time. So we got people who have kind of jobs that allow them to travel and work on pit lane and stuff like that. So some changing faces. And honestly, I think that the people who are doing it now are super talented. They're really into it. They're really friendly. They get what Lemons is. So I think we've built a really strong staff over the last year or so. And Kim Harmon obviously has a lot to do with that. So
yeah.
yeah.
Can we make a request for You know, we feel jealous that the West Coast has a dedicated lemons welder. We would like a lemons welder for the East Coast, please.
Make it happen. You know, I don't. What's crazy about, and I met Erica for the first time, Erica Snow, in December, who is an amazing addition to the Lemons community. And yeah, she was just a student on a team who brought a crappy Mini, and the Mini broke after like 3 laps. So she was like, "All right, well, I'm here to work on cars. Our car's hosed. I may as well work on everybody else's car." And you know, uh, that's amazing. Like you can't expect that or anticipate it, and the
Mm-mm.
fact that it just happened organically is completely mind blowing. So yeah, another one of the really cool additions to the Lemons paddock.
Mhm.
You guys, you can go recruit at a community college for you know,
Don't think we
a
haven't tried,
welder.
Eric. They just saw who we were
Yeah.
and went the other way.
People in the East Coast typically are not that nice, though.
No.
You know what? My wife lived in Philadelphia for a while, and uh, I'm gonna butcher this quote, but she calls people in Philadelphia the meanest, nicest people she's ever met. You know,
Oh.
there is there's no room for BS anywhere from Washington, D.C. to Boston. Like that entire Eastern Seaboard, nobody has time for your BS. But they'll take the time out and help you if you obviously need help. That's what I've seen from the
Yeah,
East Coast.
100%.
And that took me several years to understand that concept. There was a lot of, man, everybody out here is kind of a jerk. And then it was like, oh, no, 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 I get it now. Okay. So,
I think you had new to New Jersey judges. I think it was last year or the year before.
mhm.
And
That was the year before.
year before. So I
Yeah, it
go
was
to them.
dodgeball year.
So I
Yeah.
go to them after Saturday, which went pretty well. And I go to them and I say, listen, do not have a way to go, guys. Nice job. Want to keep it up because this will become a debacle on Sunday. You know,
Yeah.
just because no, give him an inch and boy, it's going to be red mist the rest of the day.
Yeah. I mean, years ago, Rich Von Snyder used to do a lot of the judging out east. He's from Colorado, but he's originally from New Hampshire. Uh, and that was the first time I went and judged with him at Connecticut was 10 years ago, I think. And that was his advice. He's like, give nobody an inch. If you give nobody an inch, you're going to do okay. But you start cutting people slack on the East Coast, and man, they will just drive all over you. So, fantastic piece of advice, still relevant.
So
Indeed.
what does it take for staffing to run an individual event? You know, part of my ignorance, but like, how many people do you need to pull one off successfully?
That's a great question. It depends a lot on there's you know a lot of variables involved, but generally the bigger the race, the more people we need, but also some facilities just need more. You know, New Hampshire, we need a lot of people just because there's a lot of people crammed into a small area. It takes a little bit of extra to manage it. Um, for like an average 100 car race, we probably have uh, between 12 and 22-ish like actual lemon staff, and that's between race control, pit lane, judges, our HQ people who are the people doing driver wristbands and stuff. And then we've got a couple people who kind of float. So yeah, it kind of varies in there. We can run a pit lane with as few as 3 people. We can run the penalty box with as few as 2 at a really small race. But generally, on average, I'd say 18-ish, probably. New
That's pretty
Jersey,
tight.
yeah, it is. I mean, that also comes with the caveat that, the corner workers are generally, the track provides them, or we
Mhm.
know somebody who heads a flagging crew. So, that's a separate set of workers. So, I mean, ultimately, when you add that in and um, fire safety and EMS, there's probably 50 to 60 people to run a race, like a big race. Like New Jersey's probably in that 50 to 60 ballpark.
Is that's one of the bigger ones that you run?
Yeah, New Jersey, I think last year New Jersey was the biggest race of the year. I think New Jersey and Road America were both in the 140 range, somewhere
Mhm.
around there, which is bigger than the California races were last year for, I think, the first time ever. So, but yeah, yeah, 50 to 60 with all the additional people. And, again, that varies. You go to Barber and it's such a beautiful facility. Like you go on the race control and there's like five of their staff in like race control, which is completely unusual, just because that's what runs that place.
Almost the same as NJMP.
Yes.
So I do have a question. What was your big highlight for the year last year between Lemons, racing, and also
Rally.
come on, what's the word I'm looking for?
Rally.
Lemons rally.
Yeah. That's a great question, man.
I mean, besides Top Gun theme. I mean,
Top
obviously.
Gun was great at Pitt.
Well, I'm not just necessarily saying theme. I'm saying like your
Yeah.
big highlight, like what really stood out to you throughout the year, other than the two cars, obviously, that were crazy builds.
Um, I'll tell you what it is, and it's a little. It's not like straightforward, but one of the things I've really been working on, I do the staffing for the judging and stuff like that. And one of the things I've been working on is putting people in position to run the races as judges. And even if I'm there, I kind of step back and just let the judges do run the race how they want to run it. And watching people kind of grow into that and take ownership of that and make the series kind of their own. That's extremely rewarding to me because I feel like more than probably any other racing series, Lemons is something that the participants make it, like we put on the event and we rent the track and we give people this venue, but like we're not really directing anything. Like people make of it what they want to make of it. And so in hiring people to judge, I've been trying to find people who really love Lemons. They love it because it's a part of their life, because they've made it part of their life and they've made themselves part of Lemons. And watching them take that judging job and kind of shape the series around what Lemons means to them, that is super cool to me to see people doing that. That's been my favorite part of this whole thing because the same thing opportunity was afforded to me when I started judging. And it was kind of a small world for a while. And it's really cool to kind of open it up and let some new people, you know, really encourage the things they love about Lemons. I mean, people who I've seen grow into it really great. Brian Trainer is incredible. Um, he used to race terrible cars, so he really gets it. Tim Burr is just incredible. Neil Losi really loves Lemons in a way that I don't think very many other people love it to the same degree he does. And watching him judge, it's such a labor of love. That's really cool.
It really is a culture.
Yeah, it's
It kind of
we're
transcends racing and whatever. It really is like a little race culture in there of its own.
yeah, and in a way that I think if you asked Jay in 2006, after the first race, if you told him, I guess, 19 years later, this is what it's going to be, he'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, it's just a bunch of dumb cars.
Right.
And it's not. I mean, it is. Obviously, it is. But, that's the excuse for being there. But the reason people go is because the guy next to you is funny as hell, because you go and you see Hofden riding a tractor, you know, with the big beard and the stupid helmet, and you laugh at the guy every time, and then you have the weirdest conversation of your life, and then you do it again 2 months later. Those kinds of experiences are irreplaceable. Like, that is the kind of stuff that matters. Those are the kinds of stories you will be telling your kids in 20 years, and they'll just be like, uh-huh, okay, yeah, whatever. But you were there because, and it was amazing.
Something amazing happens at every single race you go
It
to.
really does. Something it's always unexpected.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's never the same.
And it's always a positive thing. It's
Right.
never a bad thing in the community of lemons. It's always a positive thing that happens every
Yeah.
single weekend.
And when something negative happens, because, it's not categorically positive, but when something negative happens, the people who usually precipitate that are not long for lemons. They're either asked not to come back, or more frequently, they elect not to come back. Most people recognize when lemons isn't for them. And I
Right,
think
right.
that level of self-sorting is a nice thing to have, I guess.
Yes,
There's plenty
absolutely.
of places to go measure your equipment on a racetrack with somebody, and lemons is not that. So,
You
if
know
you
what?
need, if that's some,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that.
go ahead.
She
No,
meant it
go ahead.
every
I did.
time. Every time she does it.
I always kind of say, like, my analogy of lemons and its culture, it kind of reminds me of everybody getting together to play football before the big football game, and then they all go out drinking after. That's what it
Yeah,
kind of reminds me of. It's like nobody takes themselves too seriously. They do know how to race. Some people do know how to play football. Some people don't know how to play football, but
right.
they all do their best. They have a good time, a bunch of laughs, and then they all go out drinking after. It's just,
Yeah, no, that's completely right. And we were having a conversation, our weekly staff call this Wednesdays a couple hours ago, and we were having a conversation about, there are certainly many reasons people come to lemons, but like three of the big ones we've identified are, I want to build really weird, crazy stuff, and lemons is completely a venue for that. I want to wear a goofy costume and walk around all weekend, weirding out people and generally having a good time. And I just want track time. I don't care where it is. I want track time. I don't think we have a good idea of what those ratios are. But I do know that the people who just want track time know that they can come to Lemons, and even if they're not into, you know, people in costumes or whatever, they know the attitude is such that nobody's going to drive them into a wall being an asshole because, most of the people are there to either just have track time or, wear goofy costumes and stuff. Nobody's out for blood. It's not that kind of event. And having that kind of good atmosphere in the paddock really kind of reiterates that to me. So
Yeah.
anyway,
and it's just so open and welcoming to brand new teams who just want to get their feet wet.
yeah, I mean, I love nothing more than a new team who has no idea what they're doing. That is so charming to me because, you know, Jeremy, you were that guy. Vicki, you were that woman. Like I was that guy. Like I came to a race. I couldn't find my ass with both hands in my back pockets. So I was just like, I don't know what to do. And you're all just kind of walking around being like, I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. And then you get in a car and you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. And that continues for probably 3 or 4 races. At least people have no idea what they're doing. And it's
Mhm.
super, you have to start somewhere. And watching people starting is so cool to me still, 15
Mhm.
years into doing this.
Yeah, we actually are. I refer to them as fledglings, and
Yeah,
we're actually ambassadoring a brand new team over at Pitt. They're
awesome.
2 teams. Well, I know we're doing 2 teams this year, but I certainly know that we have
Oh, one at Pitt
definitely
and
one
one at New
fledgling
Jersey.
team coming in.
Excellent.
So
Yeah,
they're gonna paddock with us, and we're gonna walk them through the whole thing.
excellent. Yeah, I mean, that kind of mentoring is incredible, like to have somebody be like, okay, now you're going to tech. This is what's going to happen at tech.
Mhm.
We'll be nearby to help if you need help, that kind of thing is invaluable. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
100%.
it's like when they show up, our thing was, this is how you organize a garage. This is how you set up your camp. This is how
Yeah,
you this is proper food preparation, and this is how you
yeah,
feed your team. So they're just gonna just jump in
yeah,
and they're like, this is what you're gonna contribute while you come and join our team. So you contribute this, we're gonna provide this for you, and we're just gonna help you through the whole process the entire weekend. And that way you'll have an idea of what's expected.
yeah.
And you know
That's
who did it
awesome.
for us? Was Three Pedal did it for us. And we've
Yeah,
been doing
yeah,
it ever since.
yeah. I mean, the way, yeah, Three Pedal has had it figured out for a long time, and
Mhm.
watching those teams that really get it, and not only get it, but can explain it to people who, are worried about tire pressures when they should be worried about where's the water or, what am I eating?
Hey,
Uh, I
what
always,
am I sleeping in?
you're right, exactly,
How do I get that?
and
Why is Jeremy where I'm sleeping?
yeah,
Why is Jeremy spooning me right now?
Mhm.
Hey,
I mean,
it's gonna happen.
the bigger question is why isn't Jeremy spooning me right now? But we'll get there. There's plenty of
You're a
time
little
this
far
year.
away right now.
I'll see it in New Jersey, I'm sure.
It's it's a matter
I
of
went in for a
when,
nap,
not
and all of
if.
a sudden Jerry's waking us up spooning.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, Jay's for a long time said that, endurance racing, doing well at endurance racing is solving an organization problem. Like that is
It really
completely what it
is.
is.
It
Yeah.
It's a
100%.
processes system.
Yeah. And, the new team always shows up,
I
it's
want to win.
it, it's I shouldn't say always shows up. You can always tell a new team who has the guy on the team who really desperately wants to win. He's the guy who's checking tire pressures. He's the guy who's screaming at the other guy during the pit stops. You've all seen this. And that guy, he either figures it out within a couple races or he's not on the team anymore. You see that. But my favorite thing, and you talk about the fledglings, my favorite thing to see with new teams is the rookie panic where some little thing has gone wrong. And it's like four guys running around like,
Like
and
little chickens.
they're all like frozen with not knowing what to do, but they know they should be doing something fast. So they're like running around doing nothing.
Making circles around the
Yeah,
car.
it's like a Three Stooges thing, and you just kind of stand back and you're like, yeah,
I
this is the
cannot wait
thing.
to see that at Pitt.
Yeah, but again, like your first three or four lemons races you go to at all, like you're just looking at stuff being like, what the hell am I even looking at? What the hell is going on here? Who are these people that haven't figured out? Like, what have they been doing to understand this thing? And,
Why is this guy
after,
coming with a Bible to talk to me?
oh, yeah. Yeah. That kind of stuff, watching people grow into it is a thing I will never get tired of. We're way off track from 2024, by the way, but that's okay.
It's fine.
That's okay.
It's a podcast. We got plenty of tape in this machine. We're good.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right.
So you want to move into 2025?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about some upcoming things for 2025.
Yeah, let me pull up a schedule. Oh, the other cool thing last year was the rallies were great, and I want to talk a little bit about those this year. Jeff Stobbs, frequent guest, I know on Garage Heroes, but he does such a great job with the rally. He understands what works, he understands what people want, and he knows how to deliver it. And I cannot stress enough that Jeff really has planned an awesome set of rallies. Last year with the 5 that we ran, and then again we added one, so we're doing 6 this year. So
Alaska's back. Alaska's
no,
back.
No,
sorry.
Alaska was one and done. So hopefully you were on that one because
Negative,
never
sir.
doing that again. Damn it. But yeah, the six that we have are really great, and they're all shorter ones this year. They're all 3-day rallies, so they're all a long weekend. I know there are some people who want a big rally. We're going to go back to that next year. I think we'll have one like big end of year rally and then a handful of short ones to kind of lead into it. So that's the end goal with the rally. That's the rally thing. The Midwest rally is going to be great. I'm planning that one. So if you want to see what Eric planning a rally's like, come to Michigan in July. But
Yeah.
but yeah, for the race calendar,
New track for East
new
Coast.
track. Well, an old track
Old new
back on the
track.
calendar,
Yeah.
but it's also a new track. So we're going back to Summit Point in October, and that is immediately after New Hampshire. And that was designed to relieve some of the congestion, so to speak, in New Hampshire. So we're hoping that New Hampshire ends up being like an 85 to 95 car race. And then Summit Point, who knows? I think we might get 100 cars. I have no idea. But Summit Point was on the schedule from 2010 to 2013. I think we did 4 races there at the Shenandoah circuit, which was
Oh dear.
kind of a hairball place. So we're going back to run on the main Summit Point circuit, which is 2 miles. It is apparently much better protected against deer incursions, which were a major problem on Shenandoah. I'm sure you've all seen the famous picture from the boat.
The boat.
I've seen the video.
Yeah, it's spectacular, also terrible.
As long as you're not the deer. Yeah.
Exactly. Or the Alfa Romeo
Mhm.
that lost its windshield. But
What?
and they yeah. Do you not know the story, Vicki?
No.
Oh man.
She does a bit, but she doesn't know the whole story because we weren't there.
Yes. So there's there used to be a big deer problem at Shenandoah Circuit. Again, it should be better on the main circuit. They've also addressed a bunch of the safety stuff, which is why we're going back. But yeah, deer ran across the track. Greg Safarian's Alfa Romeo caught it on the windshield, flipped it up, and the camera on the top of the boat's roll cage caught the deer midair staring at the camera from 3 feet away. It's one of the wildest things you'll ever see.
It's I did see that picture. It's wild and horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And the deer apparently just bounded away like it was fine. But the windshield on the Alfa Romeo, which was leading the race at the time, got smashed. So they had to they cut up their welding cart and put the grated metal across it and used it as a windshield for the last weekend. But yeah. Anyway, so we're going back to Summit Point in West Virginia, which I'm pumped for. I will be there. That's on my calendar for the year. That one's big. We think it'll draw pretty well. And then what else is on the calendar? Got it pulled up. 24-hour race at High Plains in September. The Road America race will have a parade in downtown Elkhart Lake, which is incredible. I cannot stress enough. If you're thinking about Road America maybe being on your calendar, you should probably do that.
But I thought that was a one-off last year.
We did it last year and the year before, and I think we'll do it again in September. I mean, it's always subject to approval by the village council or whatever, but our money's green and usually pays for it. So
yeah,
it
and
was,
as long as they don't have any damage, right?
yeah, and as with all the block parties, we also have one in South Carolina in April, which is a good time. But as with all those, the messaging's pretty strict. If you are a complete asshat on the street, you're going to be ejected from the race as well. So, there's consequences for all these things. Yeah. The fact that we can do nice things like that is predicated on people not being, buttheads. So,
right.
The threshold's pretty low for that. So,
So no
Yes.
parade at New Jersey and Thompson then.
Oh man, I feel like New Jersey mentioned it once.
Then they
I feel
realized.
like they did. Yeah, and then they realized, like, yeah, you would be driving through 3 miles of nothing.
We could get
So,
the custard place around the corner. Is pretty nice though.
yeah. The custard place. By the way, the airport cafe on the other side of
Mm-hmm.
the
Not bad.
airport.
Not bad.
Really?
Breakfast really good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend. So, anyway, yeah. So a couple of block parties, 24-hour race. We got a better date for our race at Pacific Raceways in August instead of September. Um, so that'll be cool. That's a really cool old school track. I haven't been there yet. Also, that's the other one I haven't been to, but that was new last year. So,
Is that unusual to change up the time frames that you do a race? 'Cause, you know, like
uh,
Scotland's always August, New Hampshire's always October.
that's a really good question as well. It depends. We can always ask for different dates, but most tracks just default to, you have the third weekend in, June or whatever, If you want to change that, we can't guarantee that, it's the second weekend in June. So for like a full region schedule to kind of work, we tend not to elect to move things very much. Um,
Well, how far in
for
advance do you have to schedule them? Do you like before
That's a
years
that's a
out
really
or?
good question too. Yeah, it's usually Kim will start working on the schedule in earnest in like June. She'll start that process. Some tracks just won't even talk to you until August. Every one of them's a little bit different in how they operate. And that's kind of categorical. It's not just dates, every track there's no this is a tough thing for people to understand. There's no like template for how tracks rent to you. You might rent from Button Willow and they'll rent you at X dollars and that includes the pavement, the corner workers, the EMS, uh, race controller. And then you go to New Hampshire and they'll quote you a rate and that's just the pavement for 2 days, and then everything else is extra and it varies, so that's just kind of a broad example, but yeah. So, dealing with tracks it is a
It's
lot of
not
work.
easy.
It's not easy. You're right. There's a lot of turnover in management, so you end up starting fresh with some places every year or every other year, and you have to have your contract from the last year is really exciting stuff, by the way. And point out, be like, no, we did this and this is what's in here, this is what you're doing, this is what we're doing. And it's a lot of back and forth and kind of headaches sometimes. And again, like anything else, some places are much better to deal with than others.
Has it also been challenging with the like changing environments around the tracks and changing regulations with sound and so on?
To some extent, yeah. NCM is, as far as I know, the only one we go to that's like really strict about sound.
Yes,
Yes, they
AMP.
are.
AMP is as
Uh,
well.
are they? Yeah.
I don't think Lemons goes to
NCM,
MP though.
Oh, does Lemons not go to
uh,
AMP?
we do not know.
Oh, okay.
But NCM, there's a neighborhood on the other side of the paddock. It's a whole thing. There's a long story there. I don't know how much
We'll
of
do,
it I
we'll
know
do that.
correctly to
That'll
tell,
be in the
but
OnlyFans version of the
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, that's the subscription only on the
Exactly.
Patreon.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, I mean, regulations haven't changed drastically for us. There's always kind of this looming threat of, uh, I don't know what
The insurance man.
well, yeah, that is a good point. Insurance does change, and insurance, as you know, never gets cheaper. There is no such thing as our insurance rate has gone down.
Even when you don't get a claim, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's nuts, right? But what was I driving at? Oh, there's the threat of, regulation and emissions and all this stuff shutting down racing. I think that that's a lot of fear mongering and rhetoric, but we'll leave that where it is. The only places we go that have like serious regulations that we have to consider are NCM for sound, and New Jersey has
Red
all of the
gas cans.
various New Jersey related laws. It's the only state I know of that has motorsports like regulated by the DOT. So there's a whole like code of motorsports regulations written into New Jersey law. Basically, the track kind of guides us on what we need to do to uphold our end of it, and then we provide to the racers a link to the PDF if you really want to wade through it. So it's there every year on the event page. If you really want to sift through the current New Jersey motorsports
And some
code.
people should, because there are a lot of people that don't understand what a paddock speed limit is. And in
Well,
New
yeah.
Jersey, if the state police are there and you were speeding in the paddock, well, guess what? You're getting a
You
ticket.
get a ticket.
It's not
Yeah.
just getting in trouble with lemons or the track. You're getting a ticket.
Yeah.
I think it's a reckless too, not a
No, it's
a
a
little
reckless.
one.
It's definitely a reckless.
It's a big one.
Yeah. The state police in New Jersey reserve the right to sit in race control and participate in the control of the race.
Mhm.
It's only happened the first year Lemons went there, and it was kind of a non-event. It was basically a cop sitting there and collecting overtime. But that is a thing and they usually do show up during an event at some point and kind of drive around, just make sure they can say on their paperwork that they were there.
Right. They're not looking to give anybody a hard time. They're just making sure that their
You know,
paperwork is what it is.
if they find something that's probably an egregious violation, they'll probably write a ticket. But
Depends on the theme.
to date hasn't. Yeah, exactly.
You know.
It's not unusual for police who are bored to like show up at a lemons race just because they're bored and it's something to go do on a Saturday during the day. They show up, look around, say it's a bunch of weirdos, okay, and then they leave.
I can't blame them. There are a bunch of weirdos. We put all that effort in and we never get anywhere. We just keep going back to the same spot over and over and over. Anyway. So, any tracks that you guys want to go to that you either haven't or can't yet?
The answer is yes. Probably shouldn't speak to that yet. But we are.
Is there a chance that one of that list will be coming off of that list? Maybe. Maybe.
What do you mean?
Like it's on the list right now of I really want to go there, or we've never been there, and it might be coming off. Is that why we can't talk about
it? Yeah, exactly
okay.
why.
That's all. That's all I need.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that we've noticed with Summit Point is that there's a ton of interest, obviously, because we've added something new, which is also true of Hallett in Oklahoma. Lots of people are really interested in that. It's a cool, tiny, old school place. Really unique for the places we go to.
Do people realize how far away from everything Hallett is?
Yeah, Hallett in our mind is our Dallas track, which is funny because it's 6 hours from Dallas, but it's also as close as we can get to Dallas. But
wouldn't Eagles Canyon be closer?
Or it would. They won't rent to us. It's a long story.
Okay.
Yeah, Dallas is 6 hours. Kansas City's 3.5 or 4. Denver's 10. Once you get west of the Mississippi, the distances are astronomical and hard to explain, especially for you guys who have 4 racetracks within, what, 6 hours? I guess
6 hours,
New
yeah.
Hampshire's probably a little farther. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you live in Dallas, anywhere you go is 6 hours for a Lemons race.
Mhm.
But how when we've added these tracks, there might be a year or two of lag, but people see something new and they want to do a new thing. And that is probably something we've underappreciated in Lemons. So we're looking at a couple of ways we can kind of stretch to, I guess, marquee-ish tracks. At least places that I think people have expressed interest in. So
Something that
we
rhymes
want to
with
deliver that.
ver.
No, not that one.
Damn it.
Sorry. But it may not be like an ideal date. That's where we probably will end up compromising. But there's a couple that we are looking at going to, and that's not true. There
Well,
are
that's
8 that we are
nice.
at least putting together a what would this look like? Will we go to like 8 new ones next year? No, we probably will go to 1, maybe 2 a year as we kind of figure out a plan that works. But yeah, there's some consideration for expansion, and obviously any kind of expansion or risk taking is contingent upon how the economy's doing and what our enrollment numbers look like and things like that. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of things up in the air and variables that we're kind of parsing at the moment.
If you add Mount Panorama, I'll be the first one to sign up.
Oh man, that'd be cool.
You did Alaska. I mean,
Yeah. If they build a racetrack around a closed Kmart in Anchorage, I guess we
Mhm.
can see about going there.
So does it rhyme with Paguna Seca? I mean,
Well,
Doing a makeup.
here's that's not a bad question. And Laguna Seca is a very tough business case because
Yeah.
they are
They know what they got.
they well not it's not we got prices from them. It's not as onerous as you think it is. Um, but they have a hard cap of 45 cars
Really?
on the racetrack. They do not budge from that. So, you have a whole bunch of other subsidiary questions. And then also, dates are really hard to get there. So,
Yeah. I would say you'd have to be midweek probably to get them.
we'll see.
Yeah.
But,
Just a guess.
yeah, that's another thing. There's another facility we contacted, and they basically said, here's the rate, here's what that includes. Also, good luck getting a date. We're totally booked.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
indefinitely.
Yeah.
Next year, yeah, you can ask, but probably not. So,
You can give us a
there's
deposit right now for
always
2029.
yeah. I mean, that's what it is. You want November of 2028. North of the Mason-Dixon line? Sure, we'll do that. We're like, okay.
How about Gingerman backwards?
Ginger, you can't run Gingerman backwards.
Done it.
Unsafe.
Done it.
No.
A track
Here's
day is different than a race, Bill.
Yeah.
the
That's true.
With
the
140 cars, that would be ugly. Yeah.
there is a lot of the facilities that claim to be able to run backwards. We've looked at pretty carefully, and um, yeah, boy, the reverse direction usually has like one area that's like, ooh, that is a little sketch ball for us. That said, I believe
Underhill.
we are running MSR Houston the reverse direction that we have been running it, because we went and we looked at it again and we're like, well, this is way safer. So MSR will be the reverse direction of what it was. That is a change for this year as well.
You almost got us to drive all the way out to Thunderhill when you did the forward backward.
Oh, yeah, that was man, that was wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we did what was it, 3 different tracks? I feel like we
Yes.
did
You did
maybe
the
Three different
full.
tracks.
You did full, then you did forward and backward. I know you
I
did
feel
that.
like we did the full backwards too. I think it was 4. I think we
Okay.
switched midday both days.
I'm
Yeah.
in. That sounds
No,
dumb.
no,
I'm in.
it was really dumb. But it was interesting. And again, changes in format are things that seem to attract people. But at the same time, we don't want to stray too far from what actually works. I don't
Mhm.
see us ever going to, here's 6 2-hour sprint races in a weekend. Like, I don't
Mhm.
think that really works for why people do lemons.
No.
Hmm.
What about the question we ask you almost every time you come on here? What are the cars you need to see that you haven't seen?
Oh man, let me find the list.
What's on the
The list
list?
exists.
Oh,
I
hey,
know.
email
Yes.
us that list, would you
And
please?
and my other question to tie into that one, what is the magic formula that the judges like to see when it comes to the cars? Because
Oh,
we have a formula. We figured out a formula, but I want to know what the
all
judges.
right. I mean, there's no the great myth is that there's some, IOE formula. It doesn't exist. It's all made up. It's pulled out of our butt. But defunct American manufacturers, always a good idea. And the older the better. So, Pontiac, yeah, okay, fine. Buick, wait, no, Buick exists. Sorry.
Oldsmobile.
Oldsmobile,
The other one.
better. Studebaker, perfect. Packard,
Tucker.
old stuff, great. British stuff, always good. French stuff, Italian stuff, Swedish stuff to an extent. Eastern
Eastern. Yep.
Europeans, yep. Korean stuff, older Korean stuff is way better than,
Elantra.
whatever. Yeah, an '06 Elantra or whatever, like a first gen Hyundai Sonata is on the list, and most people have never seen one of those, but they were sold here.
Mhm.
You could buy like a 1990 Hyundai Sonata. That was the thing. What else is on the list? Give me
The
a letter.
Chinese cars seem to be growing in popularity on the list.
Yes.
Bleh.
Some, somebody give me a letter.
D.
D. All right, going to the D section.
Oh, you've got a list that's that long?
Daewoo Lanos,
Ooh,
good bad car.
that is a very
Just a Datsun in
We-
general.
no Daewoo.
Datsun 610, 710, and 810. Haven't had any of those in lemons.
I don't even
Or
think
an
I know.
F10, which is the weird little
Hyundai.
cherry. Yeah.
Bill, we got to find one of those and build one.
I'm pretty sure they're like $6.
If you can find one,
Put
yeah. I
up
think they have a
Hyundai
Mitsubishi
Sonata,
version.
1990
Yeah,
Hyundai Sonata. He just
Yep.
flashed on the screen.
beautiful. DeSoto, never had a DeSoto. DKW, which is a weird East German brand, I think. That was sold here. Dodge Colt, first gen Colt, Dodge Challenger, like the late 70s ones.
You never had a Colt? I'm surprised.
Yeah, you're never
not
gonna
the
find a Challenger.
Not really. No, they rusted away. They were Mitsubishi somethings. I don't know what they were, but yeah.
Do you ever have a
Um,
Miata? Do you ever have a Miata,
Duster
Eric?
shown up?
We've had Dusters. We've had both like the K car ones, the front wheel drive with the V6. Terrible cars. Good IOE car. And then we've had some 70s Dusters. Also fine. They're fine. It's every kind of like mid 70s rear wheel drive, compact to mid-size American car is kind of fine or can be made to be fine.
Have you ever gotten anything with like alternate fuel? You know,
Uh,
oil car or
just diesels so far. Let me think. And EVs.
Wasn't there a diesel that ran vegetable oil at New Hampshire?
New
Didn't they run just
Hampshire.
vegetable oil? Or were they running diesel
Maybe?
fuel?
I don't know.
I
Huh.
thought I remembered there being one at New Hampshire that
I
that had
wouldn't
the vegetable oil conversion.
I wouldn't be surprised. I know when Spank had the Corvette with the Olds 350 diesel in it, he had done a veggie oil conversion on it just for good measure. So he would pour in the veggie oil, take a sip, and then pour more in because it's Spank and it was
Because why not?
hilarious. Yeah. But as far as like super exotic fuels, we actually don't want people probably
Yeah,
doing
probably.
like hydrogen and things. Or what's the other one? Propane. There's
Oh,
propane
Yeah,
powered
well,
cars.
compressed gas. Yeah.
Compressed gas. That's a thing we don't want people to do as well. I'm sure you've seen the picture of the garbage or the video of the garbage truck exploding because uh the propane got
Yeah.
hot, expanded, and blammo. And it turns out racing a car in an endurance race makes things hot. So yeah,
It
propane
def-
probably out. But diesels, I mean, I think we had our first diesel win a race last year at Sears
really?
Point. It was a Volkswagen, it was a Rabbit. Had like an '08 TDI engine and
Hmm.
you know, it wasn't like totally stock. But they ran it with a big fuel cell. It runs 6 hours, but that's always been on the table. People have always been
yeah.
able to do that. So
You
it's
could
kind
recall
of,
that and stop them from winning.
I mean that it was a Dieselgate era diesel. So yeah. But there's some guys out of North Carolina who they had a Fiat 124 Spider with a TDI engine and a 24-gallon fuel cell. So it was a tiny car with a giant fuel cell and a diesel, and they ran an entire day on a tank of diesel. Ended up finishing second overall, I think, many years ago. And they were the
Yep.
first ones to be, I mean, this is Audi at Le Mans figured this out many years ago that
Right,
diesel
right.
was the kind
Just
of the
don't stop.
efficiency way around. Yeah. And
Diesel
so
was
it's
the
always been there. Yeah. We
well,
never had a Tempo diesel, by the way. Ford Tempo diesel or Ford
oh.
Escort diesel from the 80s.
Kind of thankful you haven't had a Tempo diesel. Oof.
I mean, I'm sure Dave Eccles all about it. So
Yeah, probably.
what are the cars that make you cringe when they show up? Like they technically meet spec, but you hate to see them.
man. Good question.
Audrey, you shouldn't have asked that.
BMWs.
I know you're working on
I'm a
that
dozen.
E46 and BMW people.
Here's the thing about BMWs. Like
Like every one of us here has
That's
a
all I
BMW.
own. Yeah.
5 Series is like at the limit of like, yeah, okay. You bring a 7 Series, perfect. They are boats. They still handle okay. They still have good motors, whatever. But there's an extra 400 pounds you just can't get rid of with those things. Like a 3 Series E46 really now and later start to see E90s, which is I mean, whatever. Anyway, E46 is if you show up without like any theme or sense of humor or anything like that, it just tells me
Don't get it.
it's not that you don't get it, you're not interested in any of the things going on.
Right, right. What about an E46 that's fully street legal with AC, heat, radio, all of it?
Themed
I mean,
to the gills.
That's better. Is it a 2.5 liter with an automatic? Because that is more lemony than a 3 liter with a stick, too.
I mean, 2.5. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, that's less racy. The person who shows up with a 3 liter with a 5 series or 5 speed, with it already lowered, with a big wing on it and, nothing done to the paint and it's stripped and all that, that's a person who has shown up to, demonstrate how it's done. And
We've
I
had quite a
can't
few of
tell
those
you,
people over the years.
yeah, and how many of them have won races?
None.
None. Yeah, that's I mean, that's what we call a self-solving problem. Even if you give them laps because they don't have a sense of humor, and that usually solves it. But if they keep coming back, the laps usually get reduced a little bit. They run A0 and they still don't win. So, but beyond that, I don't like seeing 350Zs in lemons. I feel like that is kind of at the very tip top of performance for what we really should be having around. The ones that I've seen have largely been the convertibles,
Mhm.
which are, another 300 pounds you can't get rid of because they had to cross brace the chassis. And a lot of them are automatics that have been showing up. But, you show up with a real racy 350Z, I'm not going to be
Convertible,
super enthused
convertible
about it.
Murano. Okay, though.
Convertible, yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of Nissan that I want to see is the cross cab Murano. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
They're actually, you need a weight waiver because the curb weight on it's like 4,600
Really?
pounds or something. They weigh so much. Yeah.
Yeah, they're heavy.
I didn't realize.
Yeah. But ultimately, if you show up with a fast car, but you've got a good theme and you got costumes and you're laughing and you're like, hey, we're just a bunch of idiots, you probably will get a little bit of a break. And honestly, I've been around this long enough to know that solving lemons is solving an organizational problem, and there's a tool that's always going to work for who you are better than others. And a BMW 3 Series is actually, unfortunately, a pretty good tool to get the job done in lemons. It's a problem of efficiency, right? And a six-cylinder that makes 170 horsepower or 190 or whatever, with a decent-sized fuel tank, kind of solves that problem. It's the easiest way to solve that problem. You can
That's the
solve it by
easy way.
going faster with more power and burning more fuel, but the more fuel you burn, the faster you have to go to offset it.
Yep.
Or you can go the other way with a more efficient car that is a little slower, but you lean on the efficiency, and it's this big parabola, I guess, of performance. And the BMW is kind of at the bottom, the low level of that.
So, not to rain on any parade, but is there a concern with the newer cars from two different reasons? One, they're ridiculously fast, and two, they're almost impossible to race car because everything's tied in with everything and electrically who knows and computer who knows and
Yeah, that I mean, those are real concerns, both of them. And I'll start with the former, which is that, am I concerned about what is now an 18-year-old car, which is like a BMW E90,
yeah,
that's a lot of car, right?
a lot.
Um, generally speaking, it's been this way with BMWs for a long time. It's just easy to use them as an example, but the newest version of whatever 3 Series, it tends to get laps for a while, and uh, really this becomes a probably a conversation with Jay about where this line is, because a base model E90 is a 250 horsepower car, right?
Yep.
Like, which is a lot in lemons, and it's hard to kind of overstate that. So, it's where do we want to start drawing the line on that, or do we want to start drawing the line? And we're kind of at that point where those conversations are starting to happen. Haven't quite reached any conclusions yet, but if you show up with an E90, you should expect to take laps for several races. But that being said, you bring out a really good point, which is that starting at about the time where horsepower really picked up. The complexity of cars has really reached difficult levels, right?
Mhm.
Everything's CAN bus. Unplugging the radio makes the car not run. You
Limp
have
mode.
this problem. Yeah. And we've seen this. We've seen this plenty with people who bring, specifically in my mind, there was an '05 BMW 645 or whatever, with the big
Oh
V8.
God.
And the story behind the car was a legitimately good story. Like this guy had died, the car had sat, it was part of an estate. The guy went to go buy it. Like they were flipping the house, so they needed to get rid of the car. When they flipped the house, they painted it with a sprayer. So like all the house overspray was on the car. Like
Oh, lovely.
it was totally unsellable. And then like the dash was lit up like a Christmas tree. So they bought it for $500, to get it out of there. They kind of made all the lights go away. They started racing it, and like 4 laps in, like limp home mode. And it was like, you cycle it, it would, turn it back on, be fine. You run 2 laps, limp home mode, like constantly. And that's not a me decision. I'm not the one choosing to run that, but I think that at some point people are going to decide that, man, that headache is not worth it. Or the people who will do it are people who are, BMW techs who know how to work around. They know what plugs into what in the CAN bus system,
Mm.
and makes it, work or not. But I think it'll be a somewhat self-selecting group that wants to keep running 2008 and newer stuff, because '08 was where CAN bus was mandated, I think. But most of the German stuff already had it at that point. So
Mhm.
Right.
anyway, there's the tedium of things that I have had to learn in doing BS inspection is what years were CAN bus invented and so forth. But anyway, yeah, no, I think that these are things to think about going ahead with judging, is, thinking about where newer cars fit into the broader picture of it. And frankly, like if you brought a 2016 Hyundai Elantra that was fresh out of warranty, perfect. Like that is, I mean, I'm not going to be upset about that at all. That's the kind of less than 10-year-old car I will not be upset showing up at a Lemons race.
Right. I could see that. It's just the newer car, especially like 2010 or so. The horsepower curves just started going whoosh, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that's correct. And at some point when that becomes a problem, we'll be addressing it, but it hasn't gotten there quite yet. We're
Well, I
probably a
don't
couple
think
years away.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily the horsepower curve that's the big issue. It's everything else around the horsepower, because we have cars in Lemons that have 500-600 horsepower. I mean, look
Yeah,
at Hefton's car.
yeah,
That thing with the
yeah,
supercharger was 650 plus horsepower.
yeah.
So it's all of the things around that make that car
Right.
so fast. It's the handling capabilities. It's all the other things, the brakes, and it's. I think that's where the big issue comes into play. Is not just the fact that it has more horsepower, but the fact that it does everything else far superior to all the other things.
Yeah, that's a excellent point. And I mean, that's people talk about the V6 Camry, that'll dust a, whatever, a 454 Chevelle,
Smoke
which
it.
is true, in a drag race. But like on a road course, like a 2010 Camry with a V6, the suspension design in even 10 years is insane. Driving a 2000 Camry versus 2010, you know, if you went to NJMP, for example, you'd probably be 4 to 10 seconds faster in a 10-year newer Camry. The pace of engineering change, probably from like the late '90s to, yeah, the early 2010s. That's a really good point. Is where things got really good. My daily driver's in 2011 Volvo, and the handling on it's absolutely insane. Like it's so good. So
when are we going to get our first demon in lemons, Eric?
oh man, I would love to see somebody bring one of those and watch it.
Explode
I don't, that's the crazy thing is you don't know what it would do. Which part would fail on it first? Because
the
something would
axles.
fail.
The
Yeah,
axles. That's
yeah,
the weak point of those cars because we run them. We run the Charger SRT Hellcat wide bodies, and
yeah,
it's the axles. That's the weak point.
I
yeah.
think the weak point would be the wall.
There's that too. Yeah. I mean, that car's not designed to brake hard. The demon specifically, I should say. Not designed to brake hard more than like, twice in 10 minutes. So, I feel like you'd run out of brakes in an endurance race pretty quickly. But one of the things that I would love to see that we haven't seen is any Ferrari. I would love to see somebody bring the most ratchet 308 that you've ever seen to Lemons, and with a Ferrari engine, and just see what happens. Because I don't think anybody knows what would happen if you endurance raced it. It might be amazing. Probably
Hey,
not, but
hey, Bill, forget the Hyundai. We're going Ferrari.
See,
yeah.
I looked at them and I can't imagine like I can let me rephrase. I can imagine caging it. I can't imagine getting into it after I caged it, nor out of if I needed to.
That's the
It's
thing they never tell you is that the ergonomics on all supercars forever are terrible.
Oh, they're garbage.
Yeah.
yeah. I think that would be our ladies team event car because I think they're the only ones who could get in and out of it. We could fill it with gas, Jeremy, you and me, but
Yeah.
You could
But
put a
other,
Fiero motor in it too.
yeah,
That
there
would
you
be
go.
amazing.
That would be fine. We had a Fiero do well last year too.
Mm. Yeah, those guys are really interesting. Justin Reed is the guy's name. And he built a really basic, like 86 Fiero, and he put a Saab 9.5 turbo motor in it, which is an incredible motor. Like it's like a 240 horsepower motor. But he showed up at Sebring with this suspension as he bought the car. Like it was like bound up, like it had the OE factory shocks on it. And he's like, yeah, we'll see what happens. And of course, it broke all of it. So he spent a whole bunch of time fixing it. But I mean, that car rips. They finished second overall at Road Atlanta, and they ran the fourth quickest lap at Barber.
Wow.
But all of that is, I mean, let me back up a couple steps. Justin is maybe 25, and I am blanking on the name of the other guy who drives cars. It's just two guys. They're 20 somethings. They grew up karting. They do hill climbs in the South and time attack stuff, and they are incredible drivers. So this isn't just like if I got in this car, I would not be able to make it finish second. These are two guys who really know how to drive, but the car is built out of complete trash. I have no idea how it does well. Like at Barber, it was literally falling apart. Like the intercooler, which is mounted in the back of the engine bay, like the supports just were gone. Like they had disappeared, so the intercooler was just like wagging as they were going at speed.
The added
Whatever.
lightness. Added
Yeah,
lightness.
they're the pinnacle of send it that I have seen in Lemons. Like they're just like whatever. We're gonna take this thing and drive it, and we'll see what happens.
It's
And
amazing.
sometimes it'll stay together, and most of the times it won't. So.
Well, Mr. Rood, will we be seeing you at Pit Race?
I will not be at pit race, unfortunately. My wife's birthday is right after pit, like on the Monday. So I will be home taking my wife to dinner while you guys are at pit race. But I will see you at New Jersey. That is on my schedule for this year. And
Awesome.
Summit Point, if you're coming to Summit Point.
Well, we have tentative entries in Summit Point. We're not sure we're going to get there. Jeremy lives like 6 minutes away from New Hampshire, so
Right, right.
we'll figure it out. We'll see if Santa Claus is willing to come south again.
Yeah.
Go see the Heat
I
Miser.
want to do both. I want to do both New Hampshire and there.
Shocking. Anyway, Eric, thank you again. If people want to look for 24-hour lemons and get involved with the craziness that we are partaking, how would they do that?
You can go to the website, 24hoursoflemons.com. The schedule is on there. It should be on the front page, but there's also a link at the top, take you to the schedule. There's also Lemons Rally. There are 6 rallies. I think one of them's already done. So there's 5 rallies. There's also, God, what else is there? I should know this.
Okay,
Concours
Stupid.
de Lemons.
Okay, Stupid's on
Want
there.
to do that. And we still have iRacing. We aren't doing broadcasts now, but it's a really cool community. There's 3 or 4 events a week. Chris Ray and Cameron Albernon run that. They do such an amazing job. Really cool people. They put on, if you do iRacing, they're doing really cool events with interesting cars, taking the formats and making them as interesting as you can make iRacing, which is pretty cool. And if you want to get involved, yes, we have this tool called OK Stupid. You can find people with cars who are looking for drivers, or if you have a car, you can find drivers for your car. It's a matchmaking tool. There's a link to that on the Lemons website under the race subcategory. So there you go.
Well, I think we have covered all the toppings of a bagel.
I'll take it. Thanks, guys, for having me.
No worries. Thank you, Eric.
Hey,
Have a
thanks
great
for
night.
coming on, Eric.